Hello folks, a little more Diablo 3 action here. Now, what I'm looking to do today is, let's see, I'm trying to go for the Guardian part of the Season's Journey, which means you need 3 conquests. I already have 2, and from the list here, the one that seems most reasonable, since I have no intention of mastering 8 set dungeons, since I don't ever want to do a set dungeon again if I can get away with it, is reaching Greater Rift level 55 solo with bonuses of 6 of the following classes. Now currently I've only done that with my main, the Unhallowed Essence, but you know, as you play a character a good amount, you end up with gear for other builds. So the first step I'm looking to take is with the Embodiment of the Marauders Set. And any of you who, you know, didn't play in Season 2 or earlier, which was the last time Marauders Set was meaningful, or just don't remember, may not be familiar with this set. The way it works is basically it does a lot of burst damage. You see here, you have to set up using your sentries. Your sentries deal 300% increased damage and cast Elemental Arrow, Chakram, Impale, Multi-Shot, and Cluster Arrow when you do. Well, that's cool. But the 6-piece means that for every sentry you have out, you deal 600% increased damage with Elemental Arrow, Chakram, Impale, Multi-Shot, Cluster Arrow, Companions, and Vengeance. So, even though the sentries deal more damage, you're still the star of the show. And so really what that means is you need to have a lot of sentries out. Enter Bombardier's Rucksack. You may have 2 additional sentries as well as the passive Custom Engineering, which increases your number of charges of sentries to 3 from the normal 2, which is further boosted by Bombardier's Rucksack. So you can have a total of 5 sentries out now with the combination thereof, and Custom Engineering means that they last twice as long. So there are multiple schools of thought on how to do this. I've always been in the school of thought that once you enter a rift, boom, you drop 2 sentries right away, and then as you run across enemies, you drop more sentries. Because as you can see, there is a cooldown. You can only store up 3 at a time. So to get to 5, you have to build back up 2 of them. If you drop 2 at the start, you get a 200, well, it's now a 1200% damage boost right away for the first monsters you fight. Now you'll notice we're using cold sentries. Alright? With the way the game is set up now, you pretty much have to use Ballistics. For Cluster Arrow, the only runes that work with Ballistics are Cold and Physical. And Cluster Arrow really is the most damaging skill of the ones that work with Marauders Set. Multi-Shot can do just fine, but Cluster Arrow is still more damaging in total. It also costs a lot more hatred, as you can see. So Physical gives you a larger damage boost. It's 600% weapon damage for each of the 2 rockets that fire once your shot hits where you aimed it. That also counts for each of your sentry shots, I do believe. Let's test that. Nah, there's no target. I may be lying. On the other hand, there's Maelstrom, which is cold. Now again, this fires rockets, but they only do 400% weapon damage apiece, although they do fire 3 of them. But the big boost that you get from cold is that you gain 2% life per enemy hit. Now this is not exactly lifesteal. It's based off your maximum life, so the more life you have, the more you gain, etc. But cold is, yeah, I'd say cold is definitely the way you want to go if you're in hardcore. If you're in softcore, or you just really want to get the highest greatest rift you can clear, Physical is the way to go because it's just more damage up front. Okay, what else? So the 2-piece set bonus for Marauders is deceptively strong, actually. And I'm sure there's some people who are still a little bit unclear when something says it gives you all runes of an item, or that, you know, you get full benefit of all runes of a, not an item, of a skill. So what the 2-piece means is that every rune, including the unruned version of Companion, is active at all times. As long as Companion is on the bar, you get the passive skill of every rune. So that means you get the Raven, which attacks. You get the Spider, which attacks and slows. The Bat, which attacks and grants you extra hatred. The Boar, which attacks and gives you life regen and increased resistance. 20% increased resistance, actually, which is a big, big deal. The Ferrets, which attack and boost your gold find and movement speed. And the Wolf, which just attacks. You also, when you activate Companion, get the active bonus of every rune of Companion at the same time. So once you press, you know, whatever your hotkey is for Companion, the Spider will throw out the webs, the Bat will give you your hatred, the Boar will taunt enemies, the Ferrets will pick up all health globes, and the Wolf will give you the damage bonus. The Raven will also get its mediocre and frankly unimportant damage boost. And for other skills, this doesn't really matter for Companion, but for other skills, if something says it gives you every rune of a skill, whichever rune you select will be the element that every part of that rune or every part of that skill will deal. So say Wolf was cold, this was physical, this was fire, this was lightning. If it's set to bat, Companions, all the Companions would do lightning damage. If the Ferrets were cold, you set it to cold, all the Companions would do cold damage. In this case, all Companions do physical damage, so that doesn't matter, but for other skills, that's just something to keep in your mind and to know how that works. Since we're on the skill page already, let's go over. Cluster Arrow, as we said, is our damaging skill of choice. This is our burst damage. This is what we want our sentries to fire along with us. Now, excuse me. Now, Cluster Arrow is extremely hatred intensive. Like, to the point, back in the old days, you would have to run Reaper's Wraps and use health globes to keep your hatred up. Nowadays, we have a bit better choice in as much as we have Vengeance with the Dawn weapon that we can put in the cube to cut down the cooldown. Also, Evasive Fire Focus is very effective. 7 hatred per fire is really nice. You want to use Vault just to move around. Companion, again, these three, the Wolf, the Boar, and the Spider, all are land-based. They all take damage, so that's why they have health bars. They can die, and they just regenerate when they do. But they serve as tanks for you, so that's even better. That's why they're on the bar. And again, we use Sentry Polar Station, even though we're using physical damage on our Cluster Arrow, because Polar Station chills anything inside this area. Now, what the chilling does is it procs Bane of the Trapped. It also procs Cull the Weak. These are multiplicative damage bonuses that we need massively to scale up and do higher difficulties. Higher, greater rifts, in this case. So, do not think that you're going to run Chain of Torment and have the same effect. It's not. It's going to be entirely different. It's going to gimp your entire build if you do that. Run Polar Station and put the turrets on top of the big enemies that you're trying to hit, or the big packs of enemies. Ideally, you would like everything to be in the range of a sentry when you fire on it. Now, again, the sentries themselves will fire at other targets and will do damage themselves, but again, you are the main damage dealer. So you want to, ideally you want to work things out so you're the one doing the most damage. Onto the passives. Okay, Cull the Weak, I mentioned. The damage boost here is amazing. You really don't want to pass it up. Ambush is, again, it's a huge damage multiplier, and it's just better, really, than anything else. I think I've heard and seen of some people running other things in Ambush, but I don't think there's a better option. Awareness, we run just to stay alive. Custom Engineering, again, we need for the damage boost from the Sentries. And Ballistics. Ballistics, again, is a huge, huge damage boost. Now, you notice that this is a Hellfire Amulet. This is the Hellfire Amulet for my UE build. I rolled a couple of Hellfire Amulets. None of them were useful. So I'm just going to use this so I can still have 5 passives. In all honesty, I'm not terribly concerned about damage output on a 55. This should be just fine. Now, as far as gear goes, you want 6-piece Marauders. For the head, for the helm, you would ideally like Dexterity, 6% crit, and 15% cluster arrow. But I used what I had. This is an ancient helm that rolled Dex, Vit, All-Res, and I rolled All-Res into crit. If you had enough vitality, it might be better to keep All-Res in that situation, especially since your All-Res is further boosted by your bore. But yeah, my health was very, very low without this ancient vitality. For the shoulders, area damage, resource cost reduction, sentry damage is what I have. You could swap resource cost reduction for cooldown, and that's probably fine. They essentially do the same thing, because cooldown reduction is more vengeance uptime. But, eh. The gloves, I've seen people running Dex Vit and double crit. I've also seen people doing Dex crit cooldown reduction. Cooldown reduction, resource cost reduction, again, are sort of either or. I haven't rolled these. I could probably roll a resource cost reduction, but I've been trying to gear up a wizard, and I've been burning through all of my Desperass, so I'm not going to worry about it. The chest, again, this is not ideal. You would like Dex, Vit, and Sentry damage. Again, it's not a huge part of your damage, but every little bit helps. I mean, they do 300% increased damage apiece, 5 of them, if you all had them in the same place, which normally really doesn't happen except against huge packs or the Rift Guardian, but still, it's something. That's also why we have Sentry damage here. Let's see, the belt is not actually part of Marauders Set, but Zoey's Secret is what you want to use because it's a huge amount of damage reduction. Again, we have, what's that, 6 total companions, because I'm sure it counts the Raven, which we multiply by, this goes from 8 to 9, so 8.2 times 6 is a number. Yes, it's that's a number. And you get about that much, you get that much resource cost reduction, damage reduction. This is pretty much the rolls you want, Dex, Fit, resistance, and life percent. For the pants, like with most pants, you want Dex, Vit, and resistance for non-intellect characters, armor for intellect characters. That's pretty much just the way you want your boots to look. Yeah, these rolled nicely. Dex, Vit, movement speed, cluster arrow. You could have all res instead of movement speed. That's probably better, but these are absolutely fine. To go with that, you really want a Hellfire Amulet. You want the 5 passives. You would ideally like it to have the right element on it, or to have ancient dexterity. If you have 1,000 dexterity, that's probably going to be better than having the elemental boost, especially if you have a full 20 on your bracers. Focus and restraint. Again, I just cribbed these. I just kept these on from my Unhallowed Essence build. These rolled pretty decent. And Bombardier's Rucksack. I wouldn't say that this is ideal. The thing is, I'm not sure. I didn't do the math whether 12% life or vitality is better. Hatred regeneration could probably be cooldown reduction. It's somewhat samey, except having more vengeance uptime is good. That would probably be a net upgrade if I were to swap over to that. But again, I'm not looking to waste a lot of mats. Oh, and yeah, Manticore. Manticore is the weapon of choice for the cluster arrow build because of the orange text. Reduces the hatred cost of cluster arrow by 40 to 50%. It also has 60 to 80% boost of cluster arrow damage. Mine, of course, rolled minimum, and an absolutely terrible damage range. I mean, within 40 damage of minimum, so that's why I rolled it instead of getting 10% damage. Ideally, you would have a good damage roll, 10% damage, dex, area damage, and then a good cluster arrow damage roll. The secondary doesn't really matter. Probably life gain. What is it? Life on kill that you can get on weaponry secondaries, or yeah, weapon secondaries. Dawn's going to be your weapon slot. No real choice about that. Visage of Gunes, probably the best thing to have. I mean, Cindercoat doesn't help you. Nothing else really does a lot for you there. And this is amazingly strong. 50% damage reduction as long as Vengeance is up. And Convention of Elements, just a massive, massive damage boost. I suppose if you were hardcore and needed the damage reduction, you could go for Elusive Ring. I don't know about that, but it is an enormous loss of damage. So yeah, so that's taken up a whole buttload of time. But yeah, let's hop in a 55 here and see how we get on. I'm hoping this won't take the full amount of time. I did a TX run just before this. Oh yeah, I remember how I said I was in the camp of dropping sentries as soon as you get in the rift, and then of course I didn't do that because hey, do as I say, not as I do. All that kind of stuff. But yeah, I was in did a TX rift, and even though I forgot to put an emerald in my weapon, it did not take very long at all. It was rather comfortable. It's been clearly quite some time since well, it's been since Season 2, basically, since I've played Marauders, so I guess I'm a little rusty, but I do have a fair bit of experience with the playstyle, although back in the day, we ran without generators, so you know, it's a little odd now, working evasive fire into the rotation. It's worth noting, actually, now that I think about it, I'm running Bane of the Stricken as one of my legendary gems. I did not go over that at all. You want Bane of the Trapped, Zaystone, and I'm running Bane of the Stricken, as I just said, but the normal, the sort of cookie cutter, if you want to go that way, is Teguk, honestly for good reason. Look, we're running Focus and Restraint anyway. The difference in time frame between Focus and Restraint and Teguk is not much, so as long as you can keep yourself in the right, well, honestly,
not ready yet.
The Focus and Restraint part doesn't matter too terribly much. Yeah, I had a little bit of a hiccup there on my end, on the interwebs. But yeah, as long as you can keep your hatred up and you keep firing your spender often enough to keep Teguk active, it's free armor basically, and it's a massive boost once you get Teguk pretty high. The reason I'm not doing it, like I just mentioned, the internet is not really that reliable. Like, I play on an SSD, and yet, even then, most of the time when I move from one level to another, I lose my Taeguk stacks. So, that makes it, like, really annoying to use Taeguk. Because if you're up at 100 stacks, and they all go away, you go from being pretty tough and able to survive A-OK to being just dead to everything. So it's annoyed me in the past enough to the point where I just kind of don't worry about it anymore. But it is just strictly superior, if if a little upsetting when they drop off. And of course, if you die, they fall off. But hey, that's just all the more reason to not die. And I mean, seriously, like, you know, I was talking about 100 stacks. At that point, that's 50% additional armor. Even though its proportionality means it doesn't scale quite as well once you're getting that high, that is still a ton of damage reduction. Especially with your boar giving you extra all res. There we go. I can word. You're going to be extremely tanky. And while I'm at it, that's honestly also true for on Hallowed Essence build. Again, I don't use it because of the problems I listed, but yeah. You can see here with Bane of the Stricken, there's just nothing to killing the Rift Guardian. But it's not like it's going to make that big of a difference if you have Taeguk. And frankly, having Taeguk means keep upgrading the Pain Enhancer from a wizard. Taeguk means that you're less likely to die during the rifts, so when you're pushing even higher and higher, Taeguk is probably going to buy you more time than Bane of the Stricken anyway. So what I'm saying is, if you're running a Demon Hunter, you should probably be running Taeguk. It may not be true with Shadow. I haven't looked that much into Shadow since I quit playing it, you know, like 400 Paracon levels ago. But this will be soon. So yeah, thanks for watching, folks. I hope some of this helped you, or was at least interesting. So I'll probably do this again with Natalia's and the Shadow set. So yeah, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you in another video.